they asked me to talk about cryptocurrencies, and I said very quickly, everyone in the room is going to know that I don't know what I'm talking about. So we'll stick to something I do know, and that is raising money for your venture. How many of you have thought about or are in the process of maybe starting a company using blockchain technology or some other, and you're going to, how many of you have tried to raise money before for a venture? Yeah, it's pretty tough. Let's see. That's not really my presentation. Anyway, while they're looking for that, I'll just talk. So it's tough to raise money here. There was a Bull City Capital came up with they do a survey of entrepreneurship and people raising capital. Last year, 92% of entrepreneurs that were interviewed said that it was difficult or extremely difficult to raise money here in the Triangle. That's actually up 7% from the year before. So it's a problem that's continuing to get harder. In fact, with major firm venture funds like InterSouth and Aurora not raising another fund, it's made this problem even bigger. So I wanted to talk about, I think my next slide was, I think my next slide was talking about the lack of capital here, but what a tremendous opportunity it is. Of all the asset classes that an investor can invest in, venture capital historically has outperformed every other asset class. But even within venture capital, early stage investing tends to outperform later stage investing almost 2 to 1. Then small venture funds, the ones that are focused on early, first money in, early money in, tend to return almost twice the capital of a very large fund. In fact, the larger the fund gets, usually the lower the return is. So if I, yeah, okay, we're back. See, so this slide kind of says it all here when it talks about, we were ranked one of the best places to start a business, but 37th in available funding. That's a huge dichotomy between the smart, tenacious entrepreneurs that are here wanting to start their companies and the actual amount of funding for them. But if you're here in the Triangle, there is some good news. 80% of every dollar invested in North Carolina is invested in the Triangle. So if you're, yep, there's some stats. Here we are. So I guess I could have added crowdfunding to this slide, but I know Jim Verdonick and other people here who will talk a lot more about that than I will. But these are your traditional ways to get capital to start a business. There's the friends and family model, which is, you know, I'm not a big fan of the friends and family model, mainly because it's just too easy to get. People will give you money because they like you and they're rooting for you, but that's not necessarily, I tell entrepreneurs, find a sophisticated investor who tells you no and tells you why. That process of going back, fixing that, rinse and repeat, I love to see entrepreneurs that we say no to because then they go out and they pivot, they gather more data points, and they come back with another go-to-market strategy. And we have actually ended up investing in some of those entrepreneurs after 4 or 5 different iterations of saying no. So it's great to get friends and family's money. You can get it quickly, usually really good terms, but there's not a lot of scrutiny there, typically. And they can also have very limited capital. The worst thing you can do is be undercapitalized, not be able to pay back friends and family. So a lot of people will go to angel investors, and this is a broad category. An angel investor can be very sophisticated or very unsophisticated. They can be individuals or they can be groups. The groups can have a fund that they invest out of, or they can be more of a coalition of the willing. We have both of those types here in the Triangle. So you might get good terms. I've also seen terms from angel groups that are far worse than what venture capitalists would have offered you. So it's very hard to put these guys into a category. They can be strategic, they might not be. They can be very slow. A lot of these groups only meet once a month, and due diligence can take a long time because these people have day jobs. They can create a messy cap table for you, lots of different people with small amounts of equity who think you work for them. Or it can be a very good experience, and you can have people who are really making introductions for you and helping you through that process. One of the worst things, though, about angel groups, especially around here, is they don't tend to lead a round. They would want someone else to lead the round, but then they would come in and put money alongside of a professional investor. So that brings us to the venture capitalist. These are, the good thing about venture capitalists is they traditionally are more sophisticated. They've seen a lot of companies, they've invested in a lot of companies, and so they can kind of help you through that process. They have deeper pockets. So if you, one thing about making an investment, you then have to protect that investment. So if you're not quite a plan and you're running short and you need a bridge round, more than likely a venture capitalist is going to reserve cash. For every investment they make, they reserve a certain amount of cash to protect that investment. Also, one of the best things about going with a venture capitalist is credibility. It's very hard to get people to take your fledgling blockchain technology and deploy it in their enterprise when they know that you have, like, 3 guys and a dog and some folding tables. But when you say you're venture-backed, it kind of gives you a credibility that there's money behind you and you're not going to disappear tomorrow, and it's worth them taking the time to be on the cutting edge with new technology that's supported by the venture capital community. The downside of venture capitalists is they can be very price sensitive. They're financial investors. They want to buy low and sell high. So they may not particularly offer you your best financial terms. And then, of course, they're going to want controls. They represent their investors, so they're going to have certain investor controls that an angel investor may not ask for. Then strategic investors is my personal favorite. Of the 7 companies that I started and sold in the Triangle, 5 of those exits were to strategics. They're not as price sensitive because they not only want to make money, but the main reason they're investing is because they want access to new technologies and things that could affect their core business. So I have Lowe's Ventures in one of my deals, Kaiser Permanente in one of my deals. So it's great. Back when I was an entrepreneur, Blue Cross Blue Shield here in North Carolina was a backer. And the great thing about strategics, not only are they less price sensitive on valuation, but they're also, they bring you a tremendous amount of credibility in an industry. So if you're doing software for major payers, to have Blue Cross Blue Shield put their logo on your site as a backer, maybe even on a board seat, gives you a tremendous amount of credibility. Also subject matter expertise, which is great with a strategic. The downside of a strategic is that they can often put terms in there that you wouldn't see from a venture capitalist. They'll often give you a list and say, you can't sell your technology to any of these my competitors over here. They might ask for a first right of refusal on acquiring your company, because a lot of them use this as a vetting process. And at first that sounds great, but when you get ready to sell your company, a lot of would-be suitors won't go through a due diligence process with you because they see that first right of refusal and they go, well, we're going to fly people there and do all this due diligence, and they're just going to pull their first right of refusal. And so it can make it hard to get other suitors to the table or create a little bidding war, which is exactly what you want to do when you're trying to maximize an exit. So an investor's checklist, and this could go on and on and on, but some of the things that investors are going to look for, whether they're angels or whether they're venture capitalists or strategics, they're going to say, first, does this fit with my fund thesis or what the mission is for the money that I'm managing? Every single day, I get a business plan from someone who obviously has never looked at my website. We do B2B software, early stage investing in North Carolina. I don't know how to be more clear than that, but we get, every day I'll get a long email and business plan for a medical device or a pharmaceutical product or something that is just totally outside of the focus. When a fund manager raises a bunch of money, they have to deploy that money the way they said they were going to deploy the money, or your investors tend to sue you. So don't waste your time running around and talking to people. And venture capitalists will waste a lot of your time. Yeah, fly up to Boston, come down to Atlanta, meet with us. Because that's how they get educated on the space. So they tend to take meetings because they want to know what's going on. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're in their space. They may be, I'm an early stage investor. I like being first money into a deal. I get plans all the time that say, we're raising $10 million on a $50 million pre, and I'm like, you know, obviously that's just not a meeting that's going to, you know, be fruitful for them, and probably not a good use of their time. So does the model work? One of the first things we do is we model out the business, and we put all the assumptions in. What are your revenue drivers? And does it work? I always say, if all the assumptions are true, every business works. But half those assumptions are wrong, and I never know which half. So we need to get out there and start talking to customers and figuring out, does this model work? How long is that sales cycle? I've seen, you know, 30-day sales cycles, and I've seen 3-year sales cycles in some industries. So how much money you need and how long it's going to take are intimately tied to that. Are there ways to de-risk those assumptions? Is the market big enough to care? I see a lot of students with really clever technologies for figuring out how long the line in the cafeteria at their university is. But, you know, it may not have a broad enough appeal. Is this the team that can make it happen? That's the telling question. You know, are they articulate? Are they passionate? Do they have a level of activity do they have a sense of urgency? Are they coachable? Are they going to entrench on a position, or when new data comes in, are they going to be flexible, be willing to go another direction? Because you never get it right the first time. And so I often say we back jockeys, not necessarily horses. A great entrepreneur and a bad idea will make you more money than the other way around. And I think most venture investors know that. Who will buy this company? Am I able to add value to that venture? Do I have connections? Do I have a go-to-market strategy that I can apply here? Investors want to know that their involvement, at least most of them, want to know that their involvement is somehow going to make your venture better or make it grow faster. And then is it a nice to have or a must have? Most ventures that are pitched to me are nice to have. In other words, we take it out, we shop it to enterprise buyers, and they go, yeah, we kind of like it. It would save us a few minutes a day. But we're looking for that thing where they go, oh my gosh, I've got to have that. That can save us millions of dollars a year, or it can solve these other pressing problems that we have. So that's what we're looking for. So just 2 parting thoughts. When parting with equity, always get more than money. If all you got is money from an investor, you got screwed. When raising a fund, fundraising, think of it this way. It's not a problem, but think of it as an opportunity. It's an opportunity to vet your idea, to have sophisticated investors criticize that idea. And it's also a wonderful opportunity to get the right people aligned with your success. So much of success, and I was on my 3rd venture before I figured this out, so much of success is who you get aligned with your success. You know, who's going to be advising you, who's going to be helping you, who are your partners. And when you're partnering with capital, use that as an opportunity to get those people involved in your venture and aligned with your success and your goals. So I'm David Gardner. I run a startup accelerator in Cary. It's 100% free for anyone who wants to start a software-related business. And I also run a $50 million venture fund where we do very, very early stage B2B software investments. So I think they said I could take a couple of questions.
Yeah, I think we're pretty close. Did anybody have any questions for David?
Sorry?
Ask why are you an Arsenal fan?
An Arsenal fan? You mean Arsenal Capital?
No, the football team.
Football team.
Soccer team.
Oh, sorry. Obviously not. Any other quick questions? Anybody has? Great. Start something.
Great. Thank you very much.